Bounce the Basketball Opera, for those of you who've not been with us, is the story of Ike Harris, a basketball player who's known as the Flight because of his incredible ability to dunk and to soar above everything. And he's headed for a major basketball career when he's suddenly felled by gun violence at a street game. I have 4 incredible people with us tonight, and I'd like to introduce you to them. Start with Frank X. Walker, poet laureate of the state of Kentucky for 2 years, a professor of English at the University of Kentucky. Thank you, Frank. It's been a real delight getting to know you and working with you. Next, ALICIA McCorvey, who is an extraordinary singer and dancer and actress. She is playing the role of Mrs. Harris, which is the character that we're looking at tonight. And thank you so much for joining us, ALICIA. You've just brought this character, Mrs. Lucas, to life, and it's been extraordinary. Before I move over to Dr. Everett McCorvey, we're going to say hello to your son. Would you introduce David, please, ALICIA?
This is our son, David McCorvey. He's our 3rd child.
And Dr. Everett McCorvey, with numerous credits to his name, including he is head of opera and built the opera department at the University of Kentucky. He is the founder and artistic director of the American Spiritual Ensemble and the original music director and conductor for Bounce the Basketball Opera. John Bronston, who took over the music direction of Bounce last summer. Thank you so much, John. So I suggest that we start the conversation with Frank, who you took this idea of a powerful mother and you put words in her mouth, talking to her son. Would you take it away, Frank, and tell us a little bit about the story as well?
Well, the story for me was very familiar for different kinds of reasons. You know, one, as a son of a mother who is now passed, but I was a mama's boy. She was very doting and I always got some version of the talk. Every time I got ready to even look at the doorknob, she would say, "Before you go." And often when I returned, she would take one look and then say, "Let me ask you something." And then there's a whole series of questions that would come that are connected to the talk that always expressed her concern and worry for me.
So, ALICIA.
Yes.
You yourself are a mother, your son's sitting right next to you. What were your reactions when you first got this script?
I mean, they were the things that I've said to my son on multiple occasions. So I could relate to it so easily. Mrs. Harris she's a single mom. We don't ever hear about her husband. And she's trying to guide him to the next level to get out of this neighborhood and use all the talents he has to get as far as he can.
One of the things that we talked about in the last episode was the talk that parents give, that people of color give as parents to their children to prepare them for the world, basically. So do you imagine that your character already had a talk with him previously to this?
Oh, definitely. I mean, especially with the basketball player that we had, Philip was a tall black male. So I remember when David was small and we would go through walks in our neighborhood, which is predominantly white. And I remember specifically when he was 2 years old and so many people would say to me, "Oh, he's so cute, he's so cute." And I think, yeah, you like him now, but in 15 years, you're going to cross the street when you see him walking toward you. You don't want your kids scared, but you want them aware. And being a black male, some people see you as a threat just when they see you. You don't have to do anything else. It's just the visual.
Our son leaves the house. We're praying all the time. So I think as Black families, you always, these are the things this is why I'm hoping that this current protest perhaps will change all of that, where Now, I think that the majority are beginning to realize the struggles that Black families have to go through. So in this scene, the mother is having yet again a speech that she has given to her son probably hundreds of times.
I think it's interesting that we call it the talk, just because I started hearing it when I was 15, 14, and I'm 22 now, and I still hear the same thing every time I leave. And every time I come home, the lights are still on, no matter how late, just to know that I'm safe.
One of the things that I think is really beautiful in the piece, there's a line that she sings in it where she's telling him, I was teaching you about life, so get up and make your bed. This isn't a game, it's life. And I think, as Black men, it's so easy for the world to be defined by the things that we fear around us, but that she's telling him that you have to be active, you have to get up and do something right now.
I've learned more from our work together over the last, 5, 6 years than I have my whole life. Well, I don't know if it's just us speaking now or if everyone's having these conversations, but that's why it's been so important to me to have these conversations connected to Bounce. As a mother, exploring the words, you were having to say things to your son, Ike, that I would never have had to say to my sons. This scene is Basketball and Bullets, and it was actually new in the piece when we did it in 2017 when we were premiering in Kentucky.
Okay, well, we'll do a little bit of her aria.
No jobs for schools and broken dreams, almost guarantees a neighborhood fails, and drugs and crime and stop and frisk and watch the police haul the kids off to jail. Every dime you made helped the little kid dream and kept you both off the streets. Don't be naive at what happens out there. Bullets find your little boys every week. It was a bullet, not a bouncing ball, that violated you. A bullet, not a bouncing ball, that stole your joy. You were looking for a reason to go again. Think about that mother grieving and her son. Think of all the other mothers and their sons.
Bullets find new little boys every week. That's pretty powerful. That's a powerful statement. Yeah.
And too true.
Yeah.
So now I'm very excited to introduce you to these incredible basketball players extraordinary. First of all, Trevor McGee. Trevor?
Hello, everyone.
Okay. Next, Jarrett Scantlebury. Jarrett, so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
And Marc PETITFRERE from Kentucky, from Lexington, Kentucky. Adam Nimoli from Brooklyn, New York. Adam. NIKO Torres. NIKO.
What's up, guys?
And you're going to discuss this incredible aria that we just saw on the video with Alicia McCorvey playing Mrs. Harris.
I was curious if any of you all have any experience with what that sequence is about, having the talk with your parents.
But yeah, from my dad and my mom, I've been told, watch what you say to police officers all the time. my dad, I have a biracial family. My mom is black and my dad is white. My dad has always told me that he doesn't care what has happened. He doesn't care if the cops are in the wrong. He doesn't care if I'm in the wrong. He doesn't want me to mouth off in any way to a police officer because he's absolutely terrified of what could happen to me. He knows that it's a great possibility that he might not ever see me again. Same thing with my mom. Same thing with my sister. So it's really been like beat into my head almost that if I see a police officer, talk to them with the utmost respect.
I've had the talk pretty recently with my family too, especially, as recently as 3 days ago, my brother and I were going to the first protest and my mom sat us down and was like, listen, people will try to get you going. People will, if somebody suspects you of doing something, you might have an altercation with, well, I don't want to say altercation, but you might, have an experience where a cop asks you a question and you can't get caught in the moment. You have to almost overcompensate for how, where your hands are, how you're moving. Don't make any sudden movements. But it was very interesting to me because my mom being white, until she had children of color, I don't think she ever really had to think about this. And now it's on her mind all the time.
Yeah, well, I definitely had to talk with my parents. My father is a retired police officer. So just being in the force, he knows, he's been around people who are like the officer Chauvin, who is now arrested, and the other four or the other three. But as the other two were saying, it's just like definitely remain respectful in all instances, no matter what happens, if you're in the wrong or not. The sudden movements definitely was one of the things, because not all of them are scared. Some of them may be scared, and they're supposed to be trained. But when you get in that situation, you don't really know what's happening and what's going to happen. So a lot of people just kind of react without thinking. So if you can do anything to put them at ease in any way, it ultimately benefits you in the end.
I've actually had it a couple of times, but not, specifically for police or anything like that. Just I visit my parents a lot, and just maybe last weekend, mainly because of the virus going on and also because of the protesting and police brutality. But every time before I leave, my mom always meets me at the door, and she always tells me just to make sure I go straight home. Don't make any unnecessary stops. Just get home where she knows I'm safe, mainly for her own sanity, but also for myself too. So I find myself constantly having that talk with my parents too.
Also, other people is definitely something that I was taught to look out for, because it's not just the police who might be out to get you. It could be your neighbor. You never know.
I think something you just spoke about, Adam, is probably like the biggest thing that non-people of color need to understand is that crying wolf or something like that could ultimately end up in the loss of somebody's life.
I wanted to talk to all of you all about the protests that are going on across this country right now.
I was recently, in the past 2 days, I went to 2 protests on Staten Island. They were reported to be the largest protest ever on the island. The one I went to yesterday was around 1,800 people, which is a really good turnout for Staten Island because it's such a small community. We know what we want to accomplish, and I think it was really inspiring.
And every single protest that I've been to, it's always peaceful. We use our voices, we march, we do what we have to do to show that we want change, and we're not going anywhere until we get exactly what we want.
I know that there will be more protests and there will be more marches, and I'm 100% going to be a part of that. I mean, we need change, and I'm going to be part of this change no matter what. So it's not going to stop. We're going to keep protesting and keep having our voices heard.
Thanks. And if you're in New York City, I suggest you follow Justice for George NYC on Instagram. They have a lot of updates on protests like throughout Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan. And they post a lot of stuff that can help, like homemade gas masks, what to pack in a bag for a protest, all sorts of stuff like that. So just a heads up if you want to join the movement and get updates. Justice for George NYC on Instagram.
As for myself, John, I've been trying to just stay as educated as I can throughout all of this and try and keep on, I pride myself in being a lifelong learner. And I never think that anyone is too young or too old to continue learning and growing and expanding their mindset and their point of view and whatever. And I don't want to say that just this past couple of weeks is what has opened my mind to the stuff that's been going on in the world, but it definitely was not on the forefront of my brain. And now it is. And that is all thanks in part to the protests and everything that has been going on and the people that are having their voices be heard.
Yeah. And as a reminder to everybody that there are many ways that you can participate in the movement, that it's not just protesting and walking in the streets, and it's not just donating, because obviously, a quarter of the country almost, or a fifth of the country is out of work right now, but that there are any number of ways that you can help amplify other people's voices, that you can participate, that don't mean that you have to give dollars, because obviously not everyone has any money to give right now.
I'm very grateful that you've all shared personal stories, and these special episodes of Bounce Online. We could continue to share those kind of stories. I think they're very, very important. So thank you from me.
Thank you all for sharing with us. Thank you all for being here today. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you all soon in the future, hopefully not just through this medium, but thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody stay safe out there, yeah?
Be safe.
Yeah, you too, man.
Guys.
Good.
Be good.